Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Too Many Games. And today we are here with a much requested review for the Ork Warhorde that came with the original Epic Armageddon release. We've had a lot of requests for different armies to be reviewed, and we'll get to them. But just thought we'd start on those first four armies and go from there, and then expand that out. It will be a bit of a longer one. We'll go through the whole army. We'll go through the different units. If you do enjoy Epic Armageddon or you want to learn more about that, please subscribe to the channel. Have a look at the other videos. We've almost finished all our videos on the rules, which is a big series, but hopefully helpful for those that are learning the game. Okay, let's crack straight into this and have a look at the army. And I'll go over most of what it's about and what you can do with the orcs. Feel free to leave comments, tips, strategies. It's always great when people chime in. I pin some good comments up there so others can look at them. They can learn from your experience with them. I've got some experience, but you might have a lot more than me. So let's have a look at the orcs. Starting very simply, the strategy rating of the orc force here is 3, which is pretty mid kind of ground. It's better than you might think for orcs. I usually think orcs will lose every time on strategy rating, and against Space Marines you probably will, but 3 isn't that bad really, I think. Initiative rating 3+. Again, not brilliant. You're not an auto activate like a Space Marine army or a lot of other forces potentially, but we'll see how this works with the power of the War and the mob rule to make it a bit better and kind of mitigate it, because a 3+ to activate, maybe a 4+ with blast markers is not great, and it can be quite difficult. All right, let's have a look at the special rules for the army, starting with the mob rule as I just mentioned. So your rally rolls aren't going to be great on a 3+. However, you will get some bonuses to that. This encourages you to take larger formations to basically kind of mitigate these rolls. You'll receive a +1 if you've got 5 units, more than 5 units, which is pretty good, and to your rally rolls, and you'll get a +2 if you have more than 10 units in the actual formation. War engines count the damage capacity to determine the size, so that's a pretty standard kind of rule in Epic. And just note, your Gretchen and your big guns are not included when you're counting, so don't include them. But the idea is, if you're taking these bigger mobs of units and boys, you're going to be a lot easier to rally. So you might be scared off, but you'll be able to come back into the fight a bit easier. Another special rule for battle fortresses and gun fortresses, which we'll have a look at soon. They're war engines, but they can only transport people, or units rather, from their own formation. Power of the War, this is a big one. You're going to find with orcs that activating them to do certain just standard actions is very difficult. 3+, like I said, is okay, but if it goes to a 4+, if you've got blast markers, which you will have blast markers, that's a 50-50 to basically fail. But you can mitigate that. You get a +2 to your action test when you're attempting an engage, so that's an assault action basically, or a double action, so moving twice and still shooting with a -1. Your aircraft receive +2 for interception and ground attack actions, but that's not for cap. So your aircraft are encouraged to be aggressive, just like your ground forces are encouraged to be aggressive. You're not encouraged to march, to just move and shoot, to sustain fire, to overwatch. The real push here is to engage, to assault the enemy, or to double move real fast and then blaze away with your guns. And we're going to see how that works, but you need to keep this in mind when you're basically making your force. How is this going to affect it? Am I expecting too many things to get sustained fire when I might not be able to? The Ork Warlord, every army gets a free one, which is great. You get that Supreme Commander in there. This Ork Warlord must be placed in a Great Gargant if you have one in the army. If you don't have a Great Gargant, that's alright, then you just let him join a unit of Knobs or another Gargant unit, but you must place him in a Great Gargant if you take one. Alright, some of the Ork tech rules. Well, there's really only one that I'll mention here. It's power fields. We haven't gone over Imperial Void Shields, but these are the same thing, and I'll cover them in our next army review in more depth. But generally orcs use a similar tech to the Imperials. You have these shields that just block damage, don't add blast markers from taking the damage, but they have a random strength usually. It's usually a d6 +3 or something like that for your orc power fields. and you can't repair them like Imperial ones. But again, that'll make more sense when we cover Imperial Void Shields. The Ork point cost, it can be a bit weird trying to break up in this review how much a particular unit costs, because you generally buy Ork formations at a standard size, a double size, or a triple size, and you get a discount if you go on the higher sizes. So you're encouraged to build these bigger formations still, and you'll get your boys and your units at a lower rate, which is good. Normal, big, or ooge, as they call it. Greater cost savings with the larger formations, that should say. The costings in this review are approximate and guided by upgrades for adding units in. So I'll give approximate kind of costs in here for some of these, when you could actually get it cheaper if you're building an ooge unit of gun wagons or something like that. All right, bit of a disclaimer. Subjectivity ahead. This is a review of the army. I'm just kind of going through and spitballing about the different units and what they can do. You won't agree with everything that I say in this, and nor should you. You've got your own opinion on it, particularly if you run an Ork force. I do run an Ork army. It's not the army I usually run most of the time, but I do have one. I suppose my journey with them was when I first used them. I tried to play them a lot as, I suppose, as a Space Marine army or another force like that, where they try to shoot a lot and try to hold off and build big units with lots of guns, and just found they really struggled, and I kind of put them down for a while. But when I came back to them and really learned how assaults work and how to support units in assaults and that, it made them really tough, really hard nuts to crack. So I found Orks are probably the army that I have a really good win rate with now. But it took a lot to learn them, and I play a particular style. You may play different. Put it in the comments if you've got some suggestions or differences, but just saying, this is all just how I feel. I don't trash too many things in any of these reviews because they all have their place, but I'll just flag anything that's really good or really bad as we go through. Let's start off with the Ork Warlord. This is a character upgrade that you get for free, as we said. It'll give you that Supreme Commander rule to re-roll an activation test or a rally test. It's free. He's going to add an assault weapon in. There's no reason not to take this. It's part of the army, so you have to, essentially. It's going to give you that extra melee punch, which is always nice. And Supreme Commander cannot be downplayed, particularly with Orks when you're just going to need it, particularly if you've got to do one of those activations that's not your double or your engage. There's restricted placement on him, which is a bit of a negative. If you're taking that Great Gargant, he's got to go in it. There's no other choice. So you are restricted a bit. Generally, you'll have knobs in a lot of your formations, so you're fine if you don't have that Great Gargant. What's his role in it? Well, he's a bit of a reroll generator, that's all. So big tick from me on him. The Odd Boy, another character upgrade here. This one's a bit different. So he basically adds in a big gun to replace one of your big guns. So an even bigger gun. And it's either a super zap gun or the super gun, as you can see the stats there for them, both macro weapons. One's more of a precision titan killer and the other's more of a barrage weapon. Macro weapons and the range is great. I think that's really good. Or you can add power fields, D3 power fields to the formation. So that's or the unit. That's pretty good. 50 points to do it, and you are restricted where you put him. The extra firepower is solid. Like that's pretty tasty, particularly for an Ork. The negatives are, I've just found my personal experience with this is there's never enough points to put him in. There's always another formation that could use another unit instead. The random power fields option could be crap. It could be one power field for 50 points. That's terrible. So yeah, I think if you're looking at chucking the Odd Boy in, it's when you're looking for a bit of extra ranged punch to go there. That would be his role. It's a mixed bag. I'll say you choose if you want him or not. I personally don't usually run him, but have taken him before. Right, your boys, your basic troops. So we're getting into the infantry here. Standard 15 centimeter move. You've not got much armor. You've got good close combat and terrible firefights. So you're looking here. Clearly they're meant to get into base contact with people and attack. They've got a bit of firepower there. Your big shooter putting out at 30 centimeters, AP6, AT6. The problem is a lot of the time that's going to be going up to 7s. If you're doing double moves, which you're probably encouraged to do, to activate them, you're hitting on 7s, you're not hitting anything. 25 points and you get a free grot, so the price is right. And when you're looking at them, they're great in close combat. 4 pluses for 25 points and you got your free grot there, that's great. Just get cheap bodies on the field. You're relying on bases, you're not relying on armor saves. The negatives are your firepower just sucks, like I said. Poor firefight 2, it means big formations of these are tricky in assault because you can't get everyone into base contact. You don't have the speed first up. Maybe if you're in transports, yeah, sure, but you just can't get everyone in. And anyone who's supporting with a 6+ firefight just isn't doing anything really. What's the role on them? Frontline trooper, grunt. Listen, you're going to have these in your army, and they're decent. I think the points are very fair on this with the free grot. I think that is excellent. All right, grots. So what's a grot? A grot is like boys, except kind of crapper. Same speed, no armor, close combat firefight, both atrocious. No real range coming out of it. They are expendable, and they don't count against assault scoring if there's an orc present in the formation still. So you get them for free. So cool, you're going to have them. The expendable is that you don't get blast markers added on when destroyed. You got the extra bodies, extra dice, I guess, in assault. But there's no negative to having them as long as there's an orc around. If you're losing all your orcs, then it's bad, but it's probably a dead formation anyway. Let's be honest. The cons are they don't really do anything. They're just a bit of a speed bump, and yeah, you got to make sure they don't clog up the place in an assault. Let's face it, the real orcs have to get through. So don't let your grots kind of get into close combat and means an orc boy isn't. Just things like that, real simple. Basically a meat shield kind of unit, and you know what? I think they're really good for that. For free, chucking these boys in. Got the expendable, you got the rule about the assault scoring. It's all pretty good for grots, I think. Knobs. So now we're looking at knobs. You're looking at your harder orcs here. 4+ armor save, that's really good on an orc. 3+ close combat, that's excellent for anyone. 5+ firefight is, it's average. It's average, but good for orcs. You're pumping out twice the number of shots. Still not a very good shot, but you're pumping it out and you're getting an extra attack in your close combat. 35 points for the base, so a bit pricier, but you're getting a lot more. You're not getting the free grot, but you are getting a lot more. And you got the leader special rule. That leader special rule is amazing, and it just keeps your formations going. I cannot overstate how good it is to have. If you have 2 or 3 of leaders in a formation, you'll just clear off your blast markers like nobody's business, which is excellent for orcs. I got a great save for orcs. 4+ is really good. Close combat's excellent, and that firefight, if they're not in base to base, they can still add something in. It's twice as good as your regular orcs. The cons, well, your costs are starting to creep up as soon as you start adding these in, particularly since you don't get the free grots like the boys, and you're limited in the numbers that you can add in anyway. You can't just spam knobs everywhere. So what's the role of them? They're orc sergeants, basically. They're there to provide their leadership buff and a bit of extra, melee punch, I would say. And I get the double tick for them. Knobs are amazing. If I've got the points, I chuck them in. Chuck in extra knobs, particularly on the units that you need to work. Your huge formations of boys, a few extra of these in, you can just clear off so many blast markers. It's just amazing to see, and you just see how functional your unit will remain when you've got some knobs in it. All right, the big guns. Big guns, they're counted as infantry, represented in a lot of different ways. As you can see with the pulsar rockets there, some people have artillery. They're infantry, slow moving, don't get shot, you've got no armor. You're not meant to be in close combat. You can do a little bit in firefight at least. Nothing special here. They're a ranged unit. 45 centimeters, not bad. AP5, AT5, pretty decent for an orc. 25 points, so nice and cheap. You get a decent amount of firepower, really, in a big unit of these for an orc, and it doesn't cost you that much. And they can support in close combat, but again, it's not phenomenal. Cons are you're really going to take casualties if you're picked on. If you've got a unit, if you've got a formation of these, and your firepower is not reliable enough, I don't think. Particularly for orcs, like getting a sustained fire is good, but it's hard to do. It's a 3+, 4+ if you've got some blast markers on you. So you don't really want to be spending your Supreme Commander reroll just to activate your big guns, but you'd be forced to probably. So yeah, bit of a con there. They give you that mid-range fire support is the role that I have them down for. I'll give them the tick. I don't take a lot of big guns, but they do have a place, and they can be nice to kind of chuck up as a garrison unit, and just have a bit of firepower, just shooting over the top of boys and providing some support if they need to. Commandos, so having a look at some of your specialist orcs here. Again, very similar stats to a lot of the other orc boys, but you're getting Infiltrator and Scout on these guys. You're still getting your guns and everything, 25 points. So the same cost as boys, but you're getting rid of the free grot to get your Infiltrator and your Scout. What are the pros? Good screeners, good disruptors. They're a good garrison scout option, so the scout will just let them spread out more. They add just that level of tricksiness that you might need in some formations. You can chuck some of these in and allow them to spread out a bit further, conga line out, add some extra guys around the board. So yeah, good in that sense, I think. The cons are they're just average stats. They're just boys, really. If you're not using Infiltrator, which you may or may not be, that's where you get to double your move when you're assaulting and get around behind people, which is good. But if you're in a unit with if you're in a formation with some other units, you may not be getting the most out of that, and they're still just boys anyway. If you don't use those special rules, don't get them, basically. They're scouts, they're disruptors. They do have a place in the army, I think. So yeah, pretty decent, but use them for their role. Storm Boys. So when you're looking at Storm Boys, you're looking at kind of your jump pack trips here. In fact, they've got jump pack. They're also scouts, which is quite good. That's a helpful little rule for 25 points. And you've got your close combat 4+, which is always helpful. Standard orc one, but good for them. They're fast. 30 centimeters is real good. You got that threat range of orcs being able to move in fast and assault someone. Great at running a flank, back line, just getting in there, just being a threat to things that, artillery or units, formations that feel they can sit back and pound you a bit with shooting. Like, these are a great little threat there. They can spread out. It's not too much in the way of negatives for them. They're not tough, I guess, is one of the things. If someone gets the drop on them, they'll go down. So, you've got a formation of these. Just be careful, use your cover, that kind of stuff. But again, that's, easier said than done. There's less options in mixed units with these as well. Like I think they're good, but you really want to use them for their speed and just their threat. They're great to kind of, like I said, they're just to be a real bully, to try and pick on anything that can't handle that close combat that they can punch out. And it is decent, so I do rate them in that sense. Great objective grabbers as well. Just throw a unit of these guys up just to grab an objective or to threaten an objective late game can be very handy. But probably not the guys that are going to lead the charge from the front of the army, or in the middle of the army, I should say. War bikes. Okay, so we're looking. So your bikes are your infantry here. They're mounted, so they are limited in where they can go. All right, so you got speed of 35. That's great. That is a great speed. Armor 5+ is decent. Close combat, orc close combat, basically. You got this really bizarre thing with orc war bikes where their ranged is actually surprisingly good. The twin sawn-off big shooter, it's only short range, but AP5, AT5 is really good. Limited only by the range. That's a big gun stat, basically, for 25 points. That's pretty nice. Very fast, good firepower, good all-rounders. I think they're a real mobile threat in the army. Mounted, like I said, does limit where they can go. Got a short range on their gun. It's a negative, and yeah, they can't, I don't think they can be a dedicated ranged unit, particularly, like I said, if you're doing the double action, as you're encouraged to do, this will go up to an AP6 or AT6, which is not reliable at all. So what's their role that you would have your war bikes taking? I think they're good flankers, good backline harassers. They're surprisingly good just running a flank. And, a lot of people might write them off because they're orcs, but like I said, those stats are surprisingly good for 25 points each too. So they get the tick from me. The Death Copter. All right, so we're moving in. It's a light vehicle. And if you watch the channel, you know my feelings on light vehicles. It's just a liability. Fast, that's good. Armor, that's good. 4+, so very good. So you're getting that skimmer kind of representation of armor in there. Close combat firefight, nothing great. Twin big shooter is okay. It's okay. It's 30 centimeters, AP5, AT6. That's a standard kind of gun in Epic, really, isn't it, for infantry? You got that skimmer rule, which just might help you survive a bit longer in combat. You got the pop-up attacks that come with that. 35 points, so you're stepping up into that next level from things like war bikes for the cost. Very fast, good armor save. That's what's going for them, I think. However, there's probably more cons than anything, I think, here. Light vehicle, so you are just taking damage, so you need that armor save. If you're going to take everything from AP and AT, you're really paying, I think, for the armor save. Your 35 points is going towards a 4+ save. I don't know if there's a clear role in the list. Now, I mean, you could look at this and go, yeah, of course there is. They're a flanker, they're a backline unit maybe, but we're looking at a pretty low damage output for the cost. I would say subpar assaults. You don't want to get these guys into assault. They're not scouts. Just, yeah, the firepower is not impressive. I struggle to find a spot for these guys. You've got skimmer, which I suppose you could do pop-up attacks, but you're doing pop-up attacks on what, AP5 or 6? It's not very good. So I've got them down as a flanker or a harasser if you're using them, just a bit of threat. But again, I think as soon as anything pumps a few shots into them, they'll start hurting a lot. So I'm actually going to give them the red cross, guys. So leave your complaints in the comments about this. Tell me that I'm wrong with death copters. I'm very open to someone going, no, they're amazing, just use them this way. But I just can't. I can't find a space for them, guys. I won't lie. Not compared to the other units that we're seeing. Scorchers. Okay, here we go. Another light vehicle, 35 centimeters. Same kind of thing. 5+ armor save. Firefight's surprisingly good at a 4+. And you've got the Scorcher gun. So short range, 15 centimeters, but AP4 is good. Ignore cover. 25 points, okay? Pros, great speed, good firefight. For orcs in particular, that's a really good firefight. And the gun does, I've said the gun does what others don't. There's not that many, kind of flamer guns like this that ignore cover, good AP on them. So it kind of has a spot just for that nothing else is doing this. So that's, I think, a pro for it. What are the cons? My thoughts, light vehicle. That's all I've got for the cons, but you're looking 25 points. It's pretty cheap. It's close range fire support buffer is what I've put the role as. So, it's a bit of a mouthful, but you're looking at chucking a few of these into a formation to go, I need some firefight options there to really help, or to actually just pop in a couple of shots, some AP to clear out some infantry. If we can't get into assault, we can double move up. Great, the Scorchers will shoot, take out some. If you're running them on a flank, because you can take a formation of these, real anti-personnel, just dedicated, don't go anywhere near tanks or vehicles. Just look to really push a flank, pick on some, maybe some scouts or something like that. Just use your AP. So I give the big tick here, and it might just show a bit of a bias I have compared to the death copters that I like the cheap orc units that seem to have a clear role. The war buggies, so light vehicle again, so we're really in this light vehicle territory, which I don't like. Speed's good, armor, close combat firefight, all these stats are fine. Twin big shooter again is fine, 25 points. So, there's nothing bad across the board there, I think. Light vehicle's not great, but everything else is okay. The cons on it, light vehicle, like I said, master of none, and again, you're getting this theme that I have with the Orks in particular, that they want to fulfill a role. I think, that if you're looking to go against infantry, you're better off taking your Scorcher. If you're looking for close combat or short-range firepower, consider your bikes. So they're a master of none, and I think they just get crowded out personally. The role, I've got a medium-range flanker / harasser. It's an awkward kind of spot, I think. Medium range for Orks just isn't phenomenal, and flanker harasser. So I don't know. I'm going to give him a jury's out kind of verdict. You can chuck them in, and I mean, I do every now and then. I've got tons of these. I remember once I took a big formation of about 30 of them, and then I just struggled to use them in the game because they would die in the droves and you just couldn't do anything. Your firepower was no good, your assault's not great, so just really struggle where to put them. If you're going to take them, I'd probably take them in smaller formations to just kind of sit back a bit, harass late game. But again, I don't think that's how you're going to win as an Ork army, so jury's out on this. Again, chuck in the comments why you love them. Battle wagon. So we're looking on our transports now. So thankfully we're to an armoured vehicle. Thankfully, 30 centimetres, pretty good. Armour, other stats. Listen, what you expect out of a transport. Your transport capacity is 2 units plus 1 grot. And there's just restrictions that you have around what you can take. You can't just take anything as far as the units are concerned. 2 twin big shooters, decent. So a lot of firepower coming, 25 points. What are the pros here? Great speed, 30 centimetres is good. Decent firepower for a transport, that's pretty good. 2 shots. Good capacity, 2 units, plus you get some grots in there, which is great. And, again, maybe this is just because we've been through some light vehicles, but armoured vehicle is just great. For 25 points here, I think that's pretty good. The cons, you got to pay for every single one that you have in your army, and it adds up quick, particularly if you've got a big formation of boys that need to get transported with their grots. Okay, you're paying 25 points for every boy, so you're doubling the cost really. A boy with his grots in this, 50 points, still pretty decent, I think, but it does add up when you're looking at some of these big formations, and you feel the pinch when you see other armies getting transports for free. But again, they pay for it other ways. The role, clearly, troop transport, gets the big tick from me. I've got no issue with the battle wagon. Always use them. If you're looking to assault with your boys, you got to take them up in something, I think. Well, I mean, you can go up slowly, but might as well bring some battle wagons in. One of the underrated parts here, which I haven't really mentioned, is that 5+ firefight makes them good for a firefight. So even a smaller unit of boys with some grots and these can still do a decent kind of assault threat. That firefight support there for Orks. Flak wagon. All right, so armored vehicle 30. It's very similar to what we just saw with the battle wagon. In fact, it is kind of just I think a unit to be mixed in with battle wagons. A couple here or there. Just get that flat gun up. Flat guns. It's APAT. Yeah, who cares really there? But yeah, AA is what you're looking at. It's your anti-air, right? You can transport 1 infantry with it, which is kind of cool because you can mix it in with battle wagons and you can kind of chuck a couple of these in and you'll get a couple of your boys included for transporting reasons. So it's pretty good. 35 points, decent. Just chuck out some flak. That's what you're looking at. 2 shots with AA. It's just about rolling a handful of dice to scare people. Just going, okay, I've got 2 or 3 flak wagons there. I might be throwing 6 AA at your guys as they come in to shoot me. That scares people. It's only 6+, but they don't know. You could roll a few. So it's that fear kind of factor there. And you can still just chuck in AP, AT shots where you need to. And like I said, the transport just being a bonus, that's excellent. The negatives is it's not a transport. Your battle wagon's much better. And there's better options outside of the AA role, for that transport thing when you're looking at battle wagons and also your fortresses later. 6+ to hit is rough. You're really looking at numbers here. You think if you got 3 battle wagons shooting 6 shots, you're going to hit 1. So it's not phenomenal. Like, it actually is not that effective, particularly with the range, but there's always the chance. And so that's what it really benefits from, just having that threat there, I think. it's anti-air, real simple, big tick. Throw a couple in. Given that your fighters can't really do caps, so well, not as good. You're looking at just having some of these just as a bit of a deterrent. Gun wagon. So this is kind of your Ork tank / car, whatever you want to call it, armored vehicle. 30 centimeters, good speed, I think. 5+ armor, 5+ for your close combat firefight. Got your big gun, so decent range, 45 centimeters, AP5, AT5, pretty good. Again, you've got a transport option, so you're seeing that you can mix these units into these formations, and you don't have to take all transports. You can take some gun wagons, some flak wagons, still carry some of your boys. 35 points a pop. Let's have a look. What do I like? These are Ork tanks. Good speed, decent stats. Transport's always good coming at it. They're a mobile threat that just can't be ignored. If you take a formation with just gun wagons, there's just that chance that they could perform really well. Your opponent can't ignore them, can't knock them out too easily because they are armoured vehicles, so you're not going to suffer the light vehicle trap. However, that firepower will disappoint for a tank. Maybe I play too much Eldar, Imperial Guard, Space Marines, but that firepower is going to disappoint you, particularly because you're not really doing sustained fire much. You're more likely to do a double action, which will take you to AP and AT6. So formation of gun wagons, I have not found them to be a decisive unit. In Epic, I found them to be a bit underwhelming sometimes, quite honestly. So if you're taking a full unit of them, you might find that it's a little bit disappointing. So what have I got them down for in their role? It's an armoured skirmisher or a distraction unit, so it's a bit harder to just kind of remove them than other options in the army if you got them in that. But I think you're really skirmishing. You're really trying to just provide a bit of a decoy in a sense for some of the other bigger formations or tougher formations that'll do the real heavy lifting. So they do get the tick from me. If you want, chuck a few into a big formation of boys, just to give a few extra dice. But, again, it's not phenomenal, but I think they're decent. All right, Battle Fortress, getting into some big things here. A war engine, 30 centimeters. That's pretty good for a big war engine. A lot of them don't get that, given that these are quite big. 4+ armor save, 4+ close combat, 4+ firefight. Armed to the teeth. Look at this, 4 twin big shooters, 30 centimeter range, AP5, AT6. So, just dice, just chucking out dice with a big gun included in there too. 3 damage capacity means, they're going to take a little bit of punishing before they explode. And that transport is great. 8 infantry and 4 grots. You're looking at 4 battle wagons worth there for 115 points. Pretty good. Not the firepower's a bit different, but you got some good stats there. What are the pros here? It's big and tough. It's a big, tough transport. Lots of guns, good stats, great speed. It keeps up with all those other vehicles, potentially in a bit of an armoured cavalry formation. So I think they're cool. I chuck them in. I love having one in a formation, just as kind of a big unit to kind of push through into assault and deal out some close combat or firefight, wherever it goes. Who cares? It's good. It's big. It's tough. It is a premium cost. When you're chucking in Battle Wagon for 25 points, chucking in 4 of them, this is a premium cost. And I've always felt that it just lacks the reinforced armor. I had to double check. I thought, no, surely it's got reinforced armor. It doesn't. That's rough. That's rough. 4+ on it. So 3 damage capacity does go down a bit quicker without that reinforced armor. But it's only 115, so it's premium cost, but I suppose it is cheaper than some other things out there. What's the role? It's an assault transport. Don't use this to ferry your boys around just from, go down the shops and pick up some milk. Like, if they're going in this, they're going into assault. Get it into the fight. This will be in one of those big formations of boys and other units, I think, who are going to really take the fight to the enemy. So really going to try and just provide a decisive assault that breaks the enemy. So get them in there. It's a big tick from me. A gun fortress. So similar to your battle fortress, Your stats there were looking very, well, the same. Basically, your weapons are a little different. So you're going to have 5 of the big twin shooters, so a little bit more upgunned, and then you get 3 of the big guns. So a lot more firepower coming out of it. A decent amount more coming out. Same damage capacity. You're looking at half the actual capacity for transporting, which is fine. It's more of a gun than a transport. 125 points, so 10 points dearer than the Battle Fortress. So many guns on it. That's a lot of guns, a lot of dice coming out of it, which is cool. I think it's a real solid inclusion into any formation. You got your transport still and good stats all around. So yeah, pretty good overall. Your actual anti-tank firepower, but it's okay. Like, it's not phenomenal. I mean, it's an Ork army, so I guess it's decent, but overall it's mediocre compared to what other armies would hope to put out. And you're struggling again because you don't get that reinforced armor, which just feels like you should. What's the role on it? It's a mobile gun platform for the most part, I think. If you just take it for the firepower, again, like the gun wagons, you could be a little underwhelmed in what you're putting in points wise for what you might get out of it. But if you chuck this in with another formation, you got a little mobile gun platform walking around, and people are surprised when you go, yep, I'm going to throw 8 dice here now just to have some shots out of it, and just to scare you a little bit. Big tick. All right, dreadnoughts, or death dreads as you call them later on, but we're having a look at the originals. Dreadnoughts, armor vehicles, 15 centimeter speed, so infantry speed basically. 4+ armor, it's not reinforced either. 4+ close combat, 5+ firefight, so decent stats there. 2 guns coming out, 2 big shooters, so again, decent kind of big shooter firepower, just basically shooting out as you're walking up. Your combat claws are what you're really looking at there, giving you a macro weapon extra attack, which is cool for 35 points, and you're a walker. What's good about the Dreadnought? It gives you the close combat punch that you might need. Your boys, your knobs, all that, no one's providing your macros, so you chuck some dreads in, all of a sudden you're getting a bit more punch. Decent save, 4+ is good. Adds lots of dice to range. You're looking 2 big shooters going in there, so you're just adding those extra dice in for 35 points. It's like a knob base in a sense, but giving you something different. It's giving you a bit more of that macro weapon punch, but same firepower output, similar stats, everything like that, but you're not getting that leadership here. You reroll failed dangerous terrain is your walker rule. So again, you're not held back too much by that being an armored vehicle, and you can kind of go a bit better than other ones. So cons, slow. That's what you're looking at. It's a close combat threat, but it is a slow close combat threat, and particularly given that you're not really transporting this guy very often. If he's walking up the board, I mean, he can garrison, so that's, I think, something I like to do with him. If I can get him up the board a bit, but you want to get him base contact, and 15 centimeters can mean that it can just be hard to get him in. What's the role? Well, it's a slow melee beat stick, basically. Chuck it in a unit. It's not going to go too fast, but it is going to just provide a bit of a punch to it. It gets a tick from me. I think they are very cool options for the orcs to take, and love taking them in my armies. Killer can, it's the little version of it. So armor vehicle still, you're dropping a little bit in your stats here. 5+ armor, 5+ close combat, 6+ firefight. So that's one worse across the board there. You're just dropping down to 1 big shooter, and your combat claw is still the same, thankfully, but your close combat's a little worse. So you're only paying 25 points for it. So you're dropping 10 points in the cost, but you are dropping a fair bit across there. Less firepower, less chance of saving and hitting. Pros, you still get your extra melee punch, fairly cheap for what they are, and your walker rule still helps them. Cons, it's let's face it, it's the dreadnought you take when you can't afford a dreadnought, and your range is subpar. At least with the big guy, you're throwing 2 dice. Here you're throwing 1. Who cares, right? It's not really going to do much. What's the role of this guy? He's just a macro weapon carrier, really. Just that threat of 1 in 3 chance he hits with his macro and take a unit off. So that's what he is, macro weapon carrier. I'll still give him the tick. I think just having him kind of mixed through in the right formations can be very interesting. The Stomper, this is the bigger version of the Dreadnought, basically. 4+ armor, 4+ close combat, 4+ firefight. Feeling pretty good. 2 to 3 big guns. So big guns, not big shooters. So good firepower for orcs. Always got to clarify that. And you're looking at a combat armor potentially. So you either take 3 big guns or 2 big guns and the combat armor. And the combat hammer is a little bit worse in the range, but still shoots. You know, it's a hammer after all. Of course it shoots. It seems perfectly reasonable. And but it's giving you that extra attack macro weapon if you take that. You know, so I personally take that because I think it's cool. Reinforced armor, excellent. And Walker is not bad. You're bumping up to 50 points now, so you're going up a bit further here. So what's the pros to this? They are armed to the teeth. You know, getting a couple of big guns and a big hammer for 50 points is cool. Reinforced armor just to keep you alive a little longer on that 4+. That's cool too. Choice of melee or extra firepower. So, you know, you got the options there. If you want to go all melee, go for, all ranged, go for it. Like I said, I prefer having that macro weapon available on a 4+, but hey, your choice, right? Cons. I've always just had this con with the Stompers is I know for 50 points they shouldn't have more than 1 damage capacity, but boy they feel like they should. And I think it's just because you know what a Stomper is in your head. You know that a Stomper is this big thing, and it's essentially, you know, it's got the toughness of a lemon rust, which is cool, but it feels like it should be tougher. And you know, it's just something always in my head, so I'll put it down as a con. Maybe you'll feel that too if you take them in a unit by themselves. I think you'll definitely feel that when they start dying. For orcs, it hurts. Ranged weapons are still orky at the end of the day. So if you go all ranged, 3 big guns, it's 3 big guns. It's not a bad way to buy 3 big guns, I think, you know, when you're looking at cost. But, you know, it's three big guns. They're not going to do much. What's the role of the Stomper? The role is it's the brawler. Just get up there and cause some havoc. Just shoot and swing and just be in the center of it. Just, you know, like you're going to be a great kind of brawler. People won't be able to ignore you. I'll give them the tick. Again, I don't usually take units or formations, of Stompers, but I don't mind having a few mixed through here and there. They are a bit of fun. Super Stomper. So Super Stomper is the bigger Stomper. So now we're looking at this. It's again, it's 15, 4, 4, 4 across, just like a Stomper. You're getting a lot more, variation in the weapons here. The Gaze Mork, which comes in a lot of these bigger units, 30 centimeters, macro weapon 4+, Titan Killer. That's possibly the best gun we've seen. Really cool, short range, but yeah, really cool. 2 to 3 super guns. So you're getting those bigger guns with the barrage points, macro weapons. So they're really cool. The Mega Chopper. So you either take 2 super guns and the Mega Chopper or 3 super guns. The Mega Chopper puts out a bit of firepower. Who cares? It's mainly the extra attack Titan Killer D3 that you're getting it for. So that's really cool. Damage capacity 4, great. Fearless, excellent. D3 power fields, it could be good, but it's basically extra damage capacity, but better. And reinforced armor and Walker. So again, like really good, like nothing bad there. When you look at that, you go, that's, it's only 15 centimeter move, I guess. 275 points. That's feels big. We'll get onto it. It's a Titan in a formation because you can chuck this into a formation. It's kind of cool just having this big guy in a formation with some of your Stompers and Dreadnoughts and stuff. Lots of macro weapons and Titan Killers just coming out when he's blasting away. I've written cannot be taken solo. That shouldn't be a pro. That should actually be a negative. And he's got lots of special rules. That is a pro. All those rules there, fearless, reinforced armor, all good. So yeah, really cool in that sense. That firepower is just, it's impressive for an orc, really. Those barrage points will be cool. What are the cons? Cost, 275 points. It's not unreasonable, but it feels expensive because you're running an orc army and everything's crap. Everything's kind of cheap. So you look at that and you go, oh, okay, that's, 10 orc boy bases or more. It feels like it's very expensive. The ranged armament outweighs the close combat, you know, which is fine. Yeah, and I still struggle when a unit with that is that with orcs, but it's barrage points. I've put it as a con, but it's not really a con. It's not great in assault. It is good in assault, I think. Like the 4+ firefight, you got your damage capacity 4, so it's 4 attacks. So that's that's pretty good. And if you're in base contact, you're gonna get that one attack that's a Titan killer on a 4. So that's cool. But you are slow, so you may not be in base contact. 4 firefight attacks, that's okay for 275 points. Not as good. Yeah, it forces a formation to be ranged in a lot of ways. Like it really benefits from being ranged, and it has to go with the Stompers. So there's a cost to it. So that's where the cost probably hurts a lot more. You're not paying 275. You're buying Stompers and chucking this guy in with him. So you're looking up 400 plus points. On top of that, you're then going, okay, well, do I want a few Stompers with him? No, let's expand that out. And before you know it, your formation might be the better part of 600 points, quite reasonably, which is expensive. What's his role? It's a weird one. It's a medium range blaster, is what I'd say. He can do close combat, but I just kind of feel like a lot of that there pushes him towards this medium range blaster. I say that because of those barrage points. Like they're good. The jury's out. I'm not giving him a negative, but maybe only chucked him in once or twice. He's not an auto include, and I think it's because of that paywall that you have with the fact he has to go with Stompers. If he was just a cheap little 275 Titan, I might chuck him in more, quite honestly. And I just think that medium range blaster role, I think he's good at that range. But again, if you're doing sustained fire, awesome, but good luck. You've got to actually get that off. If you're moving up and shooting, you're doing your double move, less good for those barrage points. All right, we're getting into the big stuff here. Means we can't be too far off the end of the list. A War Engine Gargant here. Look at this big thing. 15 centimeter move, so not great. 4+ armor. Yeah, it's what I expect. 3+ close combat, 3+ firefight. Very good. We're looking at look at all this. Look at all these weapons. Similar. And keep this in. This is a point against the Gargant and maybe a point for the Super Stomper. Similar layout here for weapons. Gazer Mork, 2 to 3 super guns, and if you take 2 of them, you can take either a Super Zap gun, which is a big macro weapon Titan killer attack. So that's kind of cool. 3+ as well. So again, 3+. What have we seen so far? That's 3+. I don't think we've seen anything. And you can take a Mega Chopper too, which it has some firepower, but you're looking at that Titan killer attack coming out of that as well. Damage capacity 8, brilliant. Fearless, excellent. D3 + 3 power fields, so you're starting to see a bit more increase in the power fields. If you're getting 4 to 6 extra points basically. Reinforced armor as you expect, and Walker 650. It's decent in the cost, like it's expensive, but for a Titan, it's not that expensive, I guess. Lots of firepower coming out. He's great in close combat, I think, and you're seeing that difference going to a 3+. Makes your Titan killer extra attack, better. 8 attacks at 3+, really good in close combat. He's tough. He's got great stats across the board. All good. What's the negatives? He's expensive. 650. That's that's expensive. If he does get hit, just takes some well placed Titan killer shots at him. Doesn't roll great on his power fields, and he can be in trouble. He's slow, particularly if he wants to be in close combat. And again, it's a problem with a lot of Titans have that a 15 centimeter move if they want to be in close combat specifically. He doesn't mind being in firefight. I think the only benefit you're really getting is that you get that Titan killer. So I think you're fine. It is a negative, but you're still going to be able to get that firefight. And I've found if this guy is in kind of the middle of the army, if he's providing his firefight as a support to other assaults, it is a real deterrent because people don't want to draw him in for 8 firefight shots at 3+, because that can really change an assault. He's an impact piece, is what I put the role as. He's going to have a big impact on the game. He's going to be an attention grabber. People are going to go, oh, Gargant, got to deal with it. I've got to remember that guy's there. I can't ignore him at all. So he gets the big tick from me. I do like the big Gargants. But let's look at his bigger brother, the Great Gargant. Look, the stats across there are the same. You're looking very similar in the weapon loadouts. It's a little different. You're having some big guns in there, okay? Getting one of the super guns, and then you're getting your choice of either 2 twin super guns, which are like souped up super guns, or a lifter dropper. Your twin super gun is going to add an extra barrage point on, but give you a Titan Killer D3, which is really cool. And your lifter dropper is going to give you a 3+ Titan Killer D3 and your assault weapon Titan Killer attack. So it comes down to what do you feel you want here? What do you feel is going to be more beneficial? Damage capacity of 12 is just phenomenal with D6 + 6 power fields. You get a good roll on that power field, and that is a tough Titan to take down, particularly reinforced armor as you expect. Walker, always helpful. 850, okay, you're paying a premium. 3,000 point game, 850, oh, that's a lot. But he is a lot. And like I said, 12 attacks in close combat with the extra Titan Killer attack, potentially 12 firefight attacks, 12 supporting firefight attacks. This guy is great for just putting out that threat there. What are the pros? Lots of long range macro weapon firepower. Like, look at the ranges there, 60 centimeters like the other guys. Great in close combat and firefight, tough as nails, great stats across the board, nothing bad there, right? Crazy expensive. I mean, he's not for what he is, but he is as well. That's, let's be honest. And he's slow. Yep, standard. What's his role? He's your ultimate assault unit. He's your Death Star. He's the thing you chuck in there and go, all right, he's coming up. He's going to take this. What are you going to do about it? Do you want to come and fight him? Great. You better have a way to handle him. Preferably, not in assault, I would think, unless you've got your own little time that you want to take on. But he's gold. And like I said, he can change a battle just by his presence. People will just refuse to go near him and refuse to kind of assault the units near him for fear of his support being added to the actual assault. So great unit, I think. But you pay a premium. Fighter bombers. So we're looking at our Air Force now. This is the only option we have for our fighter bombers coming in. It is a fighter bomber. 6+ armor, so terrible. But, don't get shot. That's the only thing, really. You're looking with the Ork fighter bombers. Heavy shooters coming in. You get your AA5+, your AP5+, and your tank buster rockets with an AT4+ for 50 points. What are the pros on this guy? Listen, he's cheap. 50 points. I mean, shop around. That's decent. And you got decent all-rounder on the attack. AP5, AA5, AT4+. You paying more for that on some things. If he does an intercept, he gets that +1 on his AA. So, that's pretty decent. They're all the pros. What are the cons? 6+ armor. Yeah, terrible. He's your only choice, really, for your interceptor bomber type role. So, that is a negative. Interceptors, harassers. He's not a heavy bomber. He's not going to be carpet bombing things. Just put them in there. They're cheap. 3 of them for 150. Couple of formations of them can just be really annoying, particularly if you don't care if they die so much, so you can just fly them straight down the guts, fly them straight at the enemy. Artillery I found is great. Someone's sitting back with some basilisks. All right, great. Send the fighter bombers in. We'll lose a couple. Who cares? We'll maybe do some damage. AT4, not bad. Big tick from me. The lander. Okay, so we're looking at your transport coming in here. So it is a bomber, which is cool. So I suppose you do have an option with bombers. But your lander is kind of your standard transport option that a lot of armies have. Works like a bomber, but again, it's, maybe you take it as a dedicated bomber. It's kind of cool if you do. I should probably try that. 5+ armor save here, reinforced, which is cool. You got your gun turrets, your tank buster rockets, so you're putting out a fair bit of firepower there. Randomized firepower, so you know, it could be real good, might not be. Just roll and see. It's going to be a decent amount, but AP5, AA6, all pretty good. Damage capacity 3, planetfall, reinforced armor, all good rules. Transport, may transport 10 infantry units, light vehicles, killer cans or dreadnoughts. So, you know, you're not doing your gun wagons and stuff, but you're looking at a lot of this assault type units being able to go in there for 200 points on it. What are the pros? Decent firepower, like I said. Variable on that AP and AA. Roll it, see what you get. But you're getting at least 4, so it's pretty good, I think. Damage capacity is above average for air transports. A lot of things, you know, you're taking a Thunderhawk in with 2. Like damage capacity 3 is cool, so that's a pro. Cons, you can't transport large formations. 10 units is good. It's not phenomenal for orcs. 10 dreadnoughts would be really cool, 350 points. But you know, a lot of your formations of orcs probably going to go a bit bigger than 10. So I think it's cool, but wouldn't you just love it to do 20? Probably be a bit too good. What's the role? It's an air assault transport. Listen, there are particular strategies and ways to run your army with air assault options. This is a good choice. Like, take it. If that's what you want to do, take it. I don't think you'll be upset by this guy. Can come in off planetfall, or you can just fly him in for an air assault. He'll be good fun. He'll be random on his attacks, but who cares? It's a transport, you know. So if you get some great attacks coming in, it's going to be real cool. So I'd take him. Think he's good. Kill cruiser. So we're looking at our spaceships now, our spacecraft. Generally, you're looking at a couple of things here. What's he do? Orbital bombardment, D6+1 barrage points, macro weapon. So, your guess is as good as mine as to what that does. Could be 7 barrage points, could be 2. So again, big variance there. 150 points. You're not paying the world for it. It's cheap. That's the pro. The con, random attack value. And I would say not worth 150 points. It might be cheap, but I do not think it's worth it. Particularly, you think, if you get 2 barrage points, okay, you got a big template, cool, but you know, it's not phenomenal given that you have to plot that at the start of the game. It's a light bombardment ship. That's the actual role I would put it down for. I'm going to give it an X. No, controversial, but I'll give it an X. And the reason I give it an X, because you take the battle cruiser if you want something. Battle cruiser, D6 plus 3 barrage points. So you're looking a little better. It's at least 4. You're moving across into the next level of barrage points, which is helpful. Macro weapon. So I think it's good going up to 9. So, you know, it's random, but much better. Slow and steady, transport. So again, this is actually what you're probably going to use if you're looking at doing your planetfall coming in. Can't come in straight away, but it's going to be able to drop in up to 12 landers worth of units. So 12 landers plus the units on them. So 200 points for it. If you're going to go that route of planetfall, you have to take this option because the other one doesn't transport. So the 50 points, I think, is getting you a lot more here. You're getting the option to do planetfall with your transports, and you're getting the better barrage. So better firepower, planetfall transport. That's the pros to it. The cons, listen, if you're not using the transport, don't take it. That's what I would say. Put your 200 points into something else that can do more for that, okay? What's the role? Transport, basically, with some barrage, but transport. It gets the tick because it does have what it needs to have. But again, you got to play that style, I think, to really get the use out of it. So what's the verdict? We're at the end of the Ork list here. Hopefully you've gotten a feel for what they kind of have available to them. I thought we'll go through just sorry if the font might be a bit small depending on what you're watching this on, but we'll go through some of the strengths and you know, the areas of weakness I think that the army list has as a whole. Like I said, I gave a little bit of a hint into my experience with the orcs. I think they're harder to learn than other armies, and that's because I think the assault part of Epic Armageddon is harder to wrap your head around, particularly if you've come from other games, maybe 40k, maybe some other war games. You're just trying to learn that what assault means and how decisive it is can make the orcs hard because they really do rely on, I think, if they're at their best, the assault phase going well and being on their terms. If you can crack that, it's amazing. Good in assaults. So good in assaults, lots of decent close combat units. We saw in there were so many units that are 4+. That's pretty decent, I think, and decent price on them. And I personally think, and again, I haven't played through every list in Epic Armageddon, and I haven't played against everything, and I definitely haven't played with everything, but these guys feel like they can be impossible to crack if you're doing well in an assault. Your formations are supporting each other with some supporting firepower, as I've kind of alluded to. There have been games where, taking on a Dark Eldar force that wants to attack, and they're like, well, if I assault here, you've got these units behind, you've got a big Titan there, or whatever it might be, and that can be really tough because you've got to be able to kill enough to beat the boys and not take too much damage. But it's just, it can be really hard to crack. If someone's running them well, good luck, particularly in assault, good luck. Huge formations are possible, and they're also encouraged, I think. The fact you get discounts on them, the fact you get the bonuses to rallying means that you are going to want to take huge formations. Lots of transport options for your troops, so it's really cool. You go, I've got all these boys and these grots and stuff, and I've got all these different vehicles I can just load them up in. Battle fortresses, a gun fortress, a flak wagon, a gun. It's really cool to have these mixed units with lots of transports. Get into assault, the boys pile out. It's really cool. Lots of leaders in your knobs, and I've mentioned it a few times in this already. I can't downplay how good the knobs are in this army. You rally, you clear off half your blast markers at the end of the phase, and then the leaders can just sometimes wipe the rest off, and you're back to starting strength. And the look on your opponent's face when they thought they were doing really good, they put 8 blast markers on you, and you halved it, and then your 4 knobs just removed. It's just really good having the leaders in there for a decent price, and a lot of armies just can't add them in the same quantities. Some randomness, it's a strength, I guess, because sometimes it's really good. It's the old double-edged blade. You take your big Great Gargant, and you roll your 6 for your power fields. All of a sudden, you're having a great game with him. He can just take that damage. Particularly if they're bringing Titan killers and stuff, and you're like, great, work through my power fields first. The randomness is good. Can go against you, but a lot of the time, it's a good randomness. It's a diverse army. There's lots of options, and a lot of the way you'll look at when you're going through the actual army list, you'll go, I can take this and I can fluff it out with all these different options, or I can take this other one and it's very subtle, but I can fluff it out with different options. It's a really cool, if you like, options and taking a ton of stuff in your formations. Where does it run into problems? Call it difficulties. They don't really bunker down, and they don't really outshoot the enemy. We've seen some cool ranged weapons in here, and we've seen a lot more range than you might expect an Ork army to have in some ways, but the ranged stats can be horrendous. There is a lot of 5s and 6s on these weapons, and that you might go, that's fine, there's a lot of that in a Space Marine army. Yeah, but Space Marines can do a lot of sustained fire. They can just really bunker down. They love getting their +1 and just blasting you, or Eldar, or whoever it is. Orcs don't do that generally. You can do that. I find if you want to do that on a formation, you're picking one formation in the turn to do it, because you just can't risk a 3 or a 4+ to activate on a ranged unit, and then you fail that, and don't rely on ranged to win your games with Orcs. And so, if you're taking your war buggies in big numbers like I was and running them on a flank, expecting them to blast away the enemies, they double move, it won't happen. So every time you double move, you don't hit on your shots. You're just putting some blast markers out. It's fun, but don't expect your range to be great. And you're not going to bunker down and shoot, because you'll lose the fight. You get hit by artillery, things like that. They just, Orc's armor is crap, so you'll just die in droves. You're limited in your action choice. You can take all the actions, go for it. But the power of War rule will just force you constantly to go, no, I'm not going to triple move, I'll double move and shoot. Or I'm not going to move and shoot, I'll double move and shoot because I can get it off easier. Yeah, you are really hamstrung, and you need to think about that when you're building your actual army list. What's this formation going to do? How's it going to get up the board? Then what's it going to do when it gets there? And a lot of the times, you might be going, okay, it's going to double move shoot, and then the next turn, I'm assaulting, because I know I can do that reliably. I can do that as good as a Space Marine can do his actions. So consider it. Most units are viable, I think, in this army list, but most don't stand out either. So they're decent. A lot of stuff we saw there was decent, had a particular role. You can take this or that, or you choose. What do you want? Do you want to take a Scorcher? Do you want to, like there's so many options where you're like, yeah, you can take that, it's all right. You can take that, it's all right. But it's not as much that stands out as some other armies, so it can just blur in and yeah, it'll be okay. Listen, it's a 4+ in close combat. Just get in close combat. So that's a bit of a negative. You can suffer in the firefight, and I say that specifically if you can't get enough units in close combat. Like, it's great having 4+ close combat for most of your army, essentially. Like a lot of your infantry and stuff is all 4+. You just can't get enough guys into base contact half the time, but because the enemy's not trying to get in base contact with you usually, and you don't have the speed necessarily, so you're forced to use firefight values, and firefight values in this army can be crap. Your formations can get expensive whilst they're big and they're cool. You can only run so many formations that are 600 points, and it gets expensive, and then you've got to think about objectives. Do I have enough objectives if I'm running these big units, big formations, which I'm encouraged to do? Armor saves, yeah. Where? It's orcs. You're not relying on armor, and then a lot of the time when you do have a 4+ armor, you don't get a lot of reinforced armor. You're not sitting there tanking things like Land Raiders and Lehman Russes, so just remember that. Like I said, one of my gripes was always you walk up with your Stomper and he just doesn't feel tough enough. It's just that sense where armor and things just won't save you in this in a way that you might hope sometimes. On a practical level, it's too many units. So I'm still not finished painting my Ork army. There's so many units, and if you like doing little checkerboard patterns, it's great, but so many units to paint them on. When you're playing them, there are so many units to move around. Orcs are my least played army for that reason. That like if I want to chuck down good forces, I'm getting out so many grots, so many boys, so many transports. It's horrendous sometimes, and it takes a long time to play, to move your forces around the board. You've got to consider that. My opponent is just going to be standing there going, oh, you're taking off all those guys, okay, I'll put them over there. It's just a lot of units to have. They're a horde army. So I say that's an area of weakness. It's really cool to see them, but you got to store them, you got to paint them, build them, keep them, pack them up, get them out, all that stuff. It's a horde army, so it can be real tricky. And the problem is you can try and take it more elite, but I think it's best when you're using the best parts of the horde army mixed with some of the elite formations in there. Big formations, aggressive playstyle. That's my verdict on the Orcs. So I love them. I think they're an awesome army. I don't think you'll be disappointed in playing them, but just know you're going to have big formations and you need to be aggressive in it. All right, we have reached the end of the Ork Army review. Hopefully you enjoyed that. A bit of fun just talking through the different units that are available to the Orcs. Again, it's all just my subjective opinion. Love to hear your feedback. Chuck it in the comments down below. Let other people know your strategies, your tips, your tactics. Tell them where I got it wrong. Say he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is how you do it. Let me show you, let me tell you. And I'll tell you what, I learn a lot from your comments too, so keep posting them there. Subscribe, like, all that usual stuff. Gotten a few videos out lately. Hopefully I can keep getting some out. I've got a bit of space and time to do that. Hopefully you're enjoying them. Always open to suggestions. Chuck it in the comments. And I'll keep producing stuff here on Too Many Games for you. Have a great day.